Greetings, Wyslouch here, and welcome to Musical Bi-Weekly Quick Tips. Today's quick tip, we're going to talk about polytonality. We're going to talk about one approach that we could maybe apply it to our beloved form of folk songs and old bluegrass songs. Polytonality, what is it? Poly, many, tonalities, many tonalities. Right now, let's just start with two tonalities at once. So I could say, hey Jenny, play something in the key of G. Hey Stash, play something in the key of C. Play them both at the same time. Boom, polytonality. Where do you hear polytonality? Well, all over the place. Walking down the street, a car honks its horn, it's an A-flat major triad. Another car honks its horn, it's a D major triad. Boom, polytonality. Charles Ives music is really cool. John Coltrane, Ornette Coleman. You also hear it a lot in hip-hop beats when they're mashing up two different samples. You hear it everywhere, and we're just giving it a technical term right now because we're in a technical land. That is quick tip land. By the way, thanks for subscribing to the YouTube video. Check out my Patreon page. In its most basic way, it's a really easy way to sound outside of where you're playing. Oh, bam, you're playing in the key of C, somebody else starts playing the key of E major, it's going to sound pretty outside the box because a lot of the notes are going to clash. But when we get into it, you start to feel that there's different shades of outside. If I'm playing a C major scale and somebody else is playing a D major, it's going to have a certain effect. If I start playing C major and somebody else is playing in the sphere of E flat major, for example, it's going to have a different kind of polytonality feeling than the C and D did. This is something that's interesting and fun to explore. So let's try one way. Let's take an old classic song, My Home's Across the Blue Ridge Mountains. 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 And I never expect to see you anymore. I would boil that down into this melody. Nice. For the approach that I want to try out to implement polytonality into My Homes Across the Blue Ridge Mountains, I want to skeletalize that even further. This majorly skeletalized version basically has one note per bar or sometimes one note per two bars. Our form, we've got the thing we're going to change around, and let's just define where we will exit the key and do some polytonality. The band will stay in the key of F, we will go elsewhere for a bit and then come back to the melody. For this first example, I want to do some polytonality in bars 5 and 6, bar 8, and bars 11 and 12. Everywhere else will just imply the regular Homes Across the Blue Ridge Mountains melody. Now let's look at the key of F. These are the notes in the key of F, and these are the notes in all the other keys. Even as the keys get more and more distantly related, you can still find common tones between them. For example, between F major and B major, they have B flat or A sharp in common. So we could call that a pivot tone, to pivot from one key to another. While we're in F and we play a B flat, it's the 4th degree of the F major scale. But then we can make the pivot in our head and say all of a sudden it's the major 7th of the B major scale. Interesting. And then that could dictate for the next prescribed amount of time what key we'll be in before we return back to the home key. So we go back to our original form where we've already defined the skeletal notes for each bar, and in the bars that we predetermined that we are going to engage in polytonality, switch to a different key while the band stays in the same key, we'll use that skeletal note as a pivot tone. We get to bar 5. We land on a G note. That's the 2 of the F major. We're going to pivot to another key that has the note G in it. I chose randomly A flat. So all of a sudden that G becomes a 7 in the key of A flat instead of the 2 it was in the key of F. Now we could just get there and then run up and down the major scale. We could do that, and that'd be a totally valid form of feeling that polytonality, but let's be a little more creative right now and construct some eighth note line with some of the other structures that we've developed over the course of the quick tips. These structures could include a set of intervals, thirds, fourths in that new key. It could be triads contained in the new key. It could be seventh chords contained in the new key, played linearly as arpeggios, for example. It could be tetrachords, all these different things. I just want to come up with something nice and melodic in the new key that bounces off of our pivot tone and then gracefully comes back to our melody in bar 7 in this case. 2, 3, 4. For that particular line, what did I do? Starting on a G, I ended up going up an A flat major 7 arpeggio. And then some scaly stuff, skipping a few notes here and there. And then landed back on the melody. Mountains. Cool. Moving on. We said we'd do a little polytonality in the bar 8. What is our focus tone, our skeletal melody note there? It's a C note. Tim. What did I do there? I said we'll go back to the key of A flat again. What used to be the 5 in F is now the 3 in A flat. And I just said, well, let's just do some kind of Bobby Hicks lick that I like. And then I went back to the melody for bar 9. 4. Cool. We get to bar 11 and 12, and we do the same kind of thing. Get the focus tone, treat it as a pivot tone, go to another key that also has that pivot tone. We get to a C in bar 11. I said, well, why don't we pivot to the key of D flat? And then we did a little sequence of going up a second and then up a third 4 times. And then an inverted tetrachord in D flat. And then back to the melody on bar 13. So if we're to do that whole break, it'll sound like this. 2, 3, 4. So to review this way of experimenting with polytonality in the context of our favorite bluegrass songs. Skeletalize the melody like we've done since quick tip number 1. Predetermine which bars you're going to jump to a different key. On those bars, find the focus tone, call it the pivot tone, and see which keys have that note in common. Decide on a key you're going to jump to, and bouncing off of that pivot tone, execute that new key, and then return to the original melody at a predetermined spot so that you get that push and pull feel that jumping to different keys can give you. As usual, this is just one of many ways of looking at this very deep subject of polytonality, playing things in different keys. I suggest checking out the way the masters have done it before. Here's one more experiment I did. We went polytonal on bars 1, 4, 7 and 8, and 15. My home's across the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I never expect to see you any. 1, 2.